I was wrong, I'm the one picking up the phone. If she's wrong, I'm the one picking up the phone. In a marriage, it can be different, isn't it? Because you have two individuals that are coming together from two different worlds and who do things differently. And so I might be someone who doesn't necessarily want to talk about the situation and then just kind of just keep it moving. But that causes like bigger issues down the line because you're not resolved a particular issue. You just kind of sweep it under the carpet and think things are fine. And so initially when I would try and maybe come back after a conflict, my wife would be like, nah. And I couldn't really kind of comprehend it because it's not really something that I dealt with before. But, you know, with my wife, if there's something that happens, you know, we need to kind of address that situation because she's a person that would like to understand the root cause of what happened or, you know, my thinking. So like questions like, what was going through your mind? I just think, huh? Like so you know, like
are you asking if I'm crazy? You know,
yeah. Like that's how I literally used to take it in it. But obviously, over time, I started to realize that she's actually trying to map like what
trying to get to the root cause. Yeah,
but obviously, initially, as a man and as an individual, you've got that defense. Just like, what do you mean? Like, are you boying me, kind of thing?
Yeah.
You kind of palm the whole situation off, and then so if you're not talking for 2 weeks. It's one of those ones where it's like there's so many things that you could avoid, but your pride and your ego, your lack of understanding, just so many factors just play. And so actually, I remember before we got married, if we had a dispute or a conflict, it would mess me at work. Like I'll be staring at my screen for a minute, for like 2-3 hours, just at the same screen. Might have written one sentence, and I used to work in a place where I had to kind of like write a lot at the time. So I was just staring at my screen because I just couldn't really understand it. And so the typical traits of like women, which was like maybe to like try and beg it or come back. That's my wife didn't have that. She would easily not talk to me for a minute. And so if I was wrong, I'm the one picking up the phone. If she's wrong, I'm the one picking up the phone.
You had to learn somehow, innit?
Yeah, no, but so it was mad because I used to think like it should be equal. Like if you're wrong, like you should be picking up the phone, innit? But so it kind of spun me for a minute, and I used to think, what's going on here, kind of thing, like what's happening? And so I had to sort of like, I think 9 times out of 10, if there's a beef or if there's a conflict, like it will kind of be myself to kind of initiate, kind of trying to beg it back. And so it used to mess me up individually in the beginning because I used to think like, is there no value in trying to, if you've done something wrong, like you can come through and stuff. And it wasn't that. It's just more of a case of that's just the nature of who we are as individuals. But then someone said something to me which is really quite key, and it's like the analogy that I'll put. Like you would never expect a goalkeeper to be a striker, innit? Like he's going to always be in goal every single time he gets picked, regardless of if the game is going good or if the game is going bad. And so I realized that my role in always trying to resolve it or trying to initiate it is not a bad thing. That's just who I am as an individual. And so realizing that was kind of like a penny drop moment. It was just like, right, okay, so yeah, that's just how it may have to run sometimes, you know. That's just my part in this relationship. And so, but it takes a level of maturity because sometimes you just want to be like, nah, man, I went wrong. It weren't me. Like, what are you talking about? But and so that's how conflict is. Obviously, we're going to get into it. Obviously, as we could continue, but you know, there's so many things that can come from conflict, and I think communication is key when it comes to conflict resolution. And we'll talk about what communication means, body language, your idea of how you think things should go versus the reality of how it's actually going. You know, one person saying one thing but meaning the other. It's just so many things can come up. You know, like the natural instinct is to, if you're feeling a particular way, just to start insulting, innit? But you know, you know, like if you think about it, as human beings, we have to be accountable to every word that's spoken, whether out of anger or out of joy or whatever. Like, we just have to think about what we're saying and when we're saying it. So, yeah, there's the conflict thing is a deep thing. Like, what I've been in this thing for a couple of years now, going on 7.
You don't want to get the years wrong.
No, trust me.
Couple of years, yeah, okay.
Going on 7 now, but, you know, so I'm learning every day. Do you understand? Like, I definitely look back at year 1 and I think, yeah, that was a joke, man. Year 1 was silly. Like, that was ridiculous for me to think that was ever going to happen, like, in that way, innit? And I'm sure when I'm in year 20, looking back as well, I'll look at year 7 and say, yeah, bro, you're on a joke thing.
Listen, as a man, I feel like we're constantly, in all areas, we're constantly trying to grow. These 3 men on this podcast, I can say for anyway. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, and being a husband is just one of those things. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't think you ever, let's say, reach the pinnacle and say, you know, I'm here now. I'm the perfect husband. It's something we're all working on every single day. Constant development, constantly trying to understand. Because I think there's a time and place where you have to bring in biological makeup of the woman and the man, and it's trying to understand and just accept that we're just 2 different creatures. You know what I'm saying? And although sometimes we may think something should be equal and this is how I expect her to come to me if she's done something wrong or whatever, you just kind of realize early on that, you know what, it's not going to happen like that. You know what I'm saying? We're going to handle things and look at things in a different way. I mean, both of you guys know me. Like, I've been with my missus for 16 years now. Man. Been with her since college. Do you see what I'm saying? And from the outside, you know, it looks, you know, childhood sweetheart. Oh, that's sweet. Like, all of that kind of stuff. But really and truly, if I'm honest, we've had to basically freestyle from being so young and trying to figure out what it is to be in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? You know, when you get with someone who, and both of us actually haven't had any real experience of being in a proper relationship, and you're both trying to figure things out along the way, and you're bumping heads at every single step, like you're breaking up every month over stupid stuff. Oh, what, you said that to me? Yo, let's break up. What's there? Like, it sounds childish. As where I am now, it sounds childish, but that's what was happening early on, because we just didn't understand what it took to be in a relationship, and we weren't mature enough together to work certain things out. Like, my missus was more mature than me. I accept that, but you know, when you're young, you're a teenager, and you're just not in the headspace to really take on certain things. And yeah,
I think we're different. When you first get into a relationship at that age as well, you're bringing, like you said, 0 experience. Yeah, you've met girls before, you've gone dating, you're linking back in that day anyway. Like, that's what you've been doing before, but no real, okay, how do I actually work with this? How do I work with this person? 100%. And I think, Ade, you said something just now, like, the way you deal with conflict is how you used to deal with it in the playground, or how you might have dealt with conflict with your siblings inside the house. That's completely different when you're dealing with, like, your partner. It's nowhere near the same. It can't be matched. You know, so there's a lot of learning along the way. There's a whole heap of. You said something just now, and it made me think. You know, you expect. You know, I've plenty of times I expect my wife to think about what she's actually said. If you actually said that, and you think it's gonna, like, how does that actually work? Because actually, on the flip side, when you've done it in the same way, or to the same effect, mate, they want explanations about how, you know.
100%.
How you're respecting them and your choice of words, but it works both ways.
What was going through your mind at that stage? Like,
what was going through your mind? Exactly.
And to be honest, it's the real answer was nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? It was.